The European Union. Love it or hate it, one thing's for sure. Its finances are complex enough to make even an accountant shudder. But don't worry. Together, we'll untangle the EU's wallet to understand where the money comes from and, more importantly, how it's spent. Welcome to Ciceroni. Want to help us continue breaking down the complex aspects of the EU? You can easily do so by becoming our patron. Every euro helps us. The EU collects money from a variety of sources divided into four main categories. Traditional own resources. These are taxes collected by member states specifically for the EU. The bulk comes from customs duties levied on goods imported from outside the EU. This revenue is crucial in a single market where member states don't impose duties on each other's goods. Instead, all customs duties collected at EU borders are shared. Member states keep 25% to cover administrative costs, and the remaining 75% goes to Brussels. This system works efficiently but raises questions of fairness. Ports like Rotterdam in the Netherlands or Antwerp in Belgium collect disproportionately large amounts due to their strategic positions as entry points into Europe. Smaller or landlocked countries like the Czech Republic collect far less, which necessitates redistribution to balance the system. Another part of traditional resources comes from sugar levies, which date back to when the EU heavily subsidized sugar production and export. These levies helped fund subsidies to maintain competitive prices for European sugar on the global market. Today, they represent a tiny fraction of revenue but remain as a legacy of EU agricultural policies. VAT-based resources. VAT, or value-added tax, is a consumption tax levied on goods and services in all EU member states. While VAT rates and rules vary widely, each country contributes a small percentage of its harmonized VAT base to the EU. This ensures that wealthier member states with higher spending contribute more. However, this system comes with complications. Calculating a harmonized base is a headache, involving adjustments for different rates and exemptions. It's also capped at 50% of a country's gross national income to prevent less prosperous countries, where VAT forms a larger share of national revenue, from paying disproportionately. Interestingly, Germany, the Netherlands and Sweden negotiated reduced VAT contributions, paying only 0.15% instead of 0.3%. These discounts trace back to budget negotiations in the early 2000s, when the EU was expanding and adjusting its financial framework. These countries argued that their relatively high contributions were unfair and won concessions. Austria briefly enjoyed similar discounts from 2007 to 2013. GNI-based contributions. This is the EU's largest, most straightforward and most flexible income stream. It makes up the majority of its budget. Member states contribute a small, adjustable percentage of their gross national income to the EU. This ensures the EU can cover its planned expenses, but there's a cap. Total revenue cannot exceed 1.4% of the EU's combined GNI. This approach ensures that richer member states contribute more, reflecting their economic capacity. However, it also ties the EU's financial stability to the economic health of its members, raising challenges during recessions or crises. Other resources. This catch-all category includes a variety of smaller income streams. Notably, a newer and increasingly significant contributor is the plastic-based own resource introduced in 2021. This levy charges member states based on the amount of non-recycled plastic packaging waste they produce. Other sources of income in this category include fines on companies for breaching EU competition laws, taxes and salary deductions from EU staff, contributions from non-EU countries participating in specific EU programs like Erasmus+, and leftover funds from previous budgets and programs. So now that we know where the EU gets its money, where does it all go? EU spending is about as diverse as its member states, covering everything from innovation to agriculture. For the current period of 2021 to 2027, the budget is split into 5 key categories. A greener, smarter Europe. This category focuses on long-term investment in areas like research, innovation and climate action. It includes funding for projects under Horizon Europe, the EU's flagship research program, which supports advancements in cutting-edge fields like AI, medical research and renewable energy. Climate action receives substantial attention, with significant investment in renewable energy projects, sustainable transport networks, and carbon-neutral technologies. Programs like the European Green Deal aim to make the EU the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. This category also supports the digital transformation, funding projects to improve connectivity, cybersecurity, and digital skills. Cohesion and Values. The EU's commitment to reducing economic disparities between its member states is evident here. Cohesion funds, such as the European Regional Development Fund and the Cohesion Fund, aim to support less developed regions. These funds finance everything from infrastructure projects like roads and railways to education and social inclusion initiatives. For instance, a member state with lower GDP per capita, like Romania, may receive higher contributions from the Cohesion Fund to build its infrastructure and boost its economy. The European Social Fund within this category helps individuals improve their employability through training and education. Natural resources. This is the largest single spending area driven primarily by the Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP. The CAP, which supports farmers with subsidies and aims to ensure food security, environmental sustainability and fair competition within the agricultural sector, once accounted for more than 70% of the EU budget, but now constitutes around 31%, reflecting a shift toward broader priorities. However, CAP has long faced criticism for favoring large agribusinesses over small farmers. For instance, larger farms often claim a disproportionate share of subsidies due to the payment system being linked to land area. In response, reforms have sought to incentivize eco-friendly farming practices and support rural development projects. Beyond agriculture, this category also includes funding for fisheries under the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund and supports biodiversity conservation and sustainable use of natural resources. Security and citizenship. This category tackles areas critical to maintaining a secure and cohesive union. It funds initiatives for border management through Frontex, the EU's border and coast guard agency which handles migration control and combats human trafficking and is not without criticism on its methods. Several political parties and NGOs have been vocal about the role Frontex has played in guarding the borders of Fortress Europe during the recent migrant crises. Accusations of violating human rights and international law have been made. Additionally, funds are allocated for justice and home affairs, including judicial cooperation between member states and efforts to strengthen cybersecurity. Programs like Erasmus fall under this category, promoting student exchanges and educational cooperation across the EU. Global Europe. This category finances the EU's external actions, including development aid, humanitarian assistance, and diplomatic efforts. The Neighbourhood, Development and International Cooperation Instrument, for example, supports stability and development in regions close to the EU, such as Northern Africa and Eastern Europe. While Global Europe demonstrates the EU's commitment to taking a leading role on the world stage, certain programs like the European Development Fund exist outside the main EU budget, leading to criticism about lack of transparency and cohesion in external spending. Besides the 5 key categories, there's a 6th, small but often criticized one: administration. Approximately 6% of the total EU budget goes toward administrative costs. This includes salaries, pensions, and the operations of EU institutions. EU spending is structured to benefit both member states and individuals. Some funds, like agricultural subsidies, go directly to farmers, while others, like regional development funds, are administered by member states. The distribution is intended to reflect the EU's core principle of solidarity, ensuring that wealthier states support those in greater need. There is also a capitalist logic to this solidarity, as investments have a much bigger impact in areas that have not yet developed as much, by unlocking the economic potential of the regions and the people living there. Regardless of intentions and principles, a budget as big as this is challenging to manage and monitor. Inefficiencies and fraud have been cited in the past, particularly the parts of the funds that are administered and distributed by the member states. Understanding the budget reveals the priorities and compromises of a union that's unique in the world. Like all things EU, it's complex and the product of much compromise, but it's a good reflection of what happens when 27 nations pool their resources for shared goals. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about other EU institutions, their functions and the legislative process, check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel.